Block out your calendar, bring your team, and lock in your spot because Insights EDU early bird pricing ends December 15th. We'll see you in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. For 3 days, they will disrupt what you think you know about marketing and enrollment for today's modern learner. Support the EdUp experience for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life. You'll get ad-free early access to episodes. But hurry, price goes up after December 31st, 2025. Visit edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com and click support the show. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. This is Alvin Freitas, co-founder of the EdUp Experience. And today, I got with me. He's a veteran now. He's a pro. He's my co-host. You know him now. He is Brent Ramden, and he's CEO at Education Dynamics. Brent, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited about the conversation we're about to have, and I won't done what I did in the past, which is reveal our speaker in my first sentence. But pretty excited to be talking with this president. He's in a unique part of the country. He also has a unique background that he brings into his institution. So I think the next 30 to 40 minutes will be really insightful.
Oh, 100%. And I like to get right into it. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. He is Dr. Aondover Tarhule. Hopefully I got that right. And he's the president at Illinois State University. Did I get it? How was it? Can you tell us how to properly pronounce it, please?
Good job, Alvin. I know it's not the easiest name to pronounce. Aondover Tarhule.
Aondover Tarhule. Okay.
So you were close enough. We'll take it.
When you say it, you sound so much prettier. I like that. So tell us all about what you do and how you do it.
Well, thank you so much for having me. As you say, I'm the 21st president here at Illinois State University. And this is my second year or so, or first year, depending on how you count it. I was appointed in the interim role in March of 2023, and then appointed to the substantive role last year. So I've either been doing this for about a year and a half or 2.5 years, depending on how you count it. But Illinois State University is a school that we're very proud of. We enroll about 22,000 students. We're specifically 21,994. So we're six students short of hitting the 22,000. And this is our highest enrollment since about 1991. We're very proud of that because we're in a part of the country that the enrollment number of students going to universities has been declining in some cases by quite a bit. So to be able to maintain and even grow our enrollment as we've been doing speaks to the brand name, speaks to the demand, speaks to the portfolio of academic programs that we offer. And so we're very excited about that.
Fantastic. And before I pass over to Brent, I just want to follow up. One thing that I'm always curious to learn about is leadership and your leadership style. Tell us about what's your leadership style? What's your mindset? What's your framework?
It's really about working with people. I have a daughter, and she asked me a question many years ago that I've always remembered. She said, "Dad, what do you really do?" That's what do you really do? And I thought about this, and I realized I'm mostly in meetings. That's about what I do.
That's great.
But the university gets run. That means there's a lot of people who are actually doing the work. We do the meetings, we do the strategic planning, we do the vision setting and the advocacy and stuff like that. But behind all of that, there are many, many people who actually do the things that we're discussing and the things that we agree and commit to. So a big part of leadership is really working with people, making sure that everyone is in alignment and understands what it is the university is trying to do, where we're going, and to the extent that we can, why, and trying to make sure that as much as possible, that direction reflects the ambition, the aspiration of, the multiple constituencies that we serve, and also is in alignment with the strategic plan that we have developed. So, one short question is the answer to that question is really working with people to achieve the strategic vision of the university and to deal with challenges as they come up and to try to anticipate those are the challenges that we haven't even thought about, but we know are coming.
Yeah, Brett.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Tarhule, I'm excited to be chatting with you, and congratulations on bringing in a record class this year. Like you said, you're in a part of the country where historically we're seeing significant declines all across the board. And I think in the course of this conversation, we'd love to really just pick your brain in terms of what's your magic formula, how you get that growth. But before we get into the geeky growth related story there, um, I think your background is fascinating, and your journey to the presidency brought you through an interesting pathway. And I'd love for the audience to share that, for you to share that with the audience, so they can resonate with that.
Thank you so much, Brent. I'm happy to. So you probably hear quite a bit of an accent in my in my speech, uh, and that's because I'm Nigerian. I was born in Nigeria, in West Africa, and that's where I grew up in my early education, which was in geography at the University of Jos. And I got my first degree and master's degree, both a first degree in geography and the master's degree was in environmental resources planning. And then subsequently, I went on to Canada, to McMaster University in Canada, that's in Hamilton, Ontario, where I got a second master's degree in geography and a PhD, also in geography, specializing in climate and hydrology, really the intersection between climate, hydrology, and human use of water resources. So after that, I started my career at the University of Oklahoma as an assistant professor. I moved through the ranks, going from assistant to associate, the whole thing, full professor. Along the way, my dean at the time, John Snow, convinced me to go into administration, and I became a department chair, and then I sort of moved up through the administrative cadre, the hierarchy as well, from department chair to executive associate dean. This was at the College of Atmospheric and Geographic Sciences at the University of Oklahoma. And then I went on to SUNY Binghamton, part of the State University of New York, where I was the vice provost and dean of the graduate school. And in 2020, I was fortunate enough to be accepted here at Illinois State as vice provost for academic affairs, vice president for academic affairs and provost. And as I mentioned, 3 years after that, I think I was standing in the right place at the wrong time or the wrong place at the right time. I don't know whatever that was. But the board then asked me to be step in as the interim president when our previous president resigned. And I did that for a year. I decided this wasn't too bad a gig after all, and so put my hat in the ring for the permanent position. And that's how I got here. So I don't know that there was no particular point where I said I'm going to be president one day. My family, both my parents were completely uneducated. They never went to school, not even for one day in their lives. So I didn't have that opportunity for guidance from your parents about career options and opportunity and directions. So I got a lot of help and mentorship from people I met along the way, my teachers and other folks I interacted with. But there never was a point at which I said, I'm going to become president one day. I just sort of flowed with the stream and put my head down and did what I enjoy doing. I've always liked academics and working with students, and I firmly believe in the value of and the mission of the public higher education. and love doing it. And I still like what I do to this day.
That is great. It's also highly inspiring to hear that story because I think of the presidency as one of the toughest jobs right now, just anywhere that you can have to be a college president and managing the change that's happening, just with the population, with perception of higher education, and obviously you have a success story there in terms of growth of enrollment. And so I'd love to maybe take it there, Dr. Tarhule, and really, you mentioned in the onset, hey, you when you think about the institution, it's offering the right programs
Mhm.
that deliver the outcome that matters to your population. Is that really how, when you think about what's been driving your success? Obviously, a big part of it has to do with the folks that work at the institution and all the effort that goes in there. But the product that you offer also speaks for itself. You guys, and I'll probably get to the punchline. You also have higher than average retention and higher graduation rates. So it's
Yeah.
not only the ability to grow, but also drive completion. How do you balance all that? And what's been the secret for success?
I'm really fortunate. I'm fortunate that the many people who preceded me in this role have been very thoughtful and forward looking. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, I figured all this out. No, there's many people who've been thinking about this for many years and building those steps and building blocks that you mentioned. In many ways, I feel like on some of these issues, I am merely rolling the stone across the finish line. So let me talk about enrollment, for example. We have known, when I say we, I think most people in the higher ed sector have known that since about the mid 2010s, that there was going to be a major decline in the number of college age students. The the birth rate in this country peaked around 2011. And in particular, during the last economic recession in 2008, 2008, the birth rate really plummeted. People made very wise and rational choices that the economic circumstances were just too difficult for them to have children. Well, if you just count forward from that point to about where we are today, 2025, that's about 17, 18 years. So the people that should have been born during that time period were not born. And so in the 2010s, everyone knew that just by a simple cohort analysis that come this point in time, there's going to be fewer people going to college. And so the folks here, even before I came to Illinois State, realized this, and they started thinking about what are we going to do when that time comes. And so we very strategically, as a university, decided to create an enrollment management plan that would create new academic programs, thereby allowing us to tap into populations that would not normally come here if we didn't have the programs. So there was a very conscious and intentional choice to say, what are the kinds of programs that we could be offering that we currently don't, that would allow us to broaden the pool of applicants coming to Illinois State? And so programs like engineering, that's when that conversation started, data science, creative technologies, and so on. And the expansion of nursing include which is a program we already had, but we knew that we had more capacity to take on more students. So I think that kind of enrollment management planning and very forward looking thinking has allowed us to prepare for this time over many years, and in some ways, we're reaping the rewards and the benefits of all that advanced planning.
Yeah, I love the examples that you use. What we tend to see at a national landscape level is that more and more students are navigating to majors and programs that have that career plan in mind.
Yes.
You know, in the programs you mentioned there, it sounds like the university was able to step back and really think about, okay, what's the future of work? And when you think about the Midwest, right, like you said, where the demographic cliff has arrived, fewer students are there, and you're getting more students coming to you because you built these programs. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the career thoughts and the career aspect that you applied and the institution applied to sort of launching these and maybe even supporting students through that journey?
Yes, you are absolutely correct, Brent. So I think there's been a major shift going on in the way that we think about higher education in this country for a long time. So at the end of World War II, with the GI Bill and into the 70s and so on, we saw that we, meaning the country as a whole, perceived higher education as a public good. And there was significant investment in higher education because we felt that if everyone was educated or had a college degree, or as many people who could get a college degree, if they did so, we thought that this was ultimately good for society. That was the thinking. Over time, that thinking has changed. What we saw as public education is now increasingly being seen as a private good. So, as a private good, the state has really pulled back on its investment and so transferred most of the cost of education now to families and parents. And the students. This is important because as a public good, we in many ways almost controlled what it was that students could study, or at least we had the luxury of saying, thou shalt study one, two, three. Well, as a private good, it's almost the same way as you would go to a restaurant and you want to eat something, maybe barbecue. Somebody there might say, hey, you know what? The salad is really better for your health, but damn it, you're paying for it and you want your barbecue, right? And so I think what we really needed was for institutions to say, what is it that people are looking for? So as that dynamic changed in the perception of education from a public good to a private good, institutions that were forward looking tried to align their course offerings with what it was that people wanted. So you might want to offer vegetable salad bar, but if all your customers want to eat a barbecue, then you better be smoking more barbecue. So I think what happened here at Illinois State is I'm really thankful that the leadership understood this. They were attuned to those dynamics. And so they started creating those programs that would support workforce. Because if people are borrowing money to come to college, they want to be able to see how they're going to be able to pay off
Yep.
those debt. And so if you are not offering them those career pathways, then you're going to be missing them. So we became very intentional, very supportive about career pathways. We have not and will never give up on the idea and the benefits of a liberal education. So for us, it's not a question of one or the other. It's one of making sure that we continue to offer the liberal education which supports critical thinking and prepares people for careers, not just vocational jobs, but also being cognizant of the fact that students and parents are asking for very specific pathways. And if we want to serve them, we want to be able to provide those. So that's what really informed the type of courses that we decided to grow. So if you think about the ones I mentioned, whether it's nursing, engineering, computer science, construction management, creative technologies, these are courses where students can immediately see career pathways for them. And alongside creating those programs, we made sure that our career office of career preparation is just as strong. We have put in a lot of effort in terms of internships and connecting our students to work environments because that's where a lot of them, how a lot of them getting their first job. So it's been an all hands on deck approach for many years by many different leaders and the institution as a whole. And I feel extremely fortunate to have stepped into this environment and to continue to move the ball along.
Dr. Tarhule, I love the pragmatism that you are describing at the institution, which is, we studied our market, we understood what was going on, we identified how we will buck the trend, right? Because your neighboring institutions aren't probably growing at the same rate that you are, or reflective of the trends that you have there. I'd like to talk a little bit about your student population. Uh,
Yes.
in terms of, maybe general makeup of the student population, and how does that affect how you design the services and the support services to get the type of outcomes that you have today?
If you're afraid of success, this message isn't for you. Every year, higher ed talks about change. But Insights EDU 2026, it's the catalyst. The Modern Learner Report drops here first, revealing how learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. Spoiler, most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach in Fort Lauderdale, February 17th to the 19th, 2026. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, real strategy, real data, only built for leaders ready to own their transformation. Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. The EdUp experience has delivered over 1,000 episodes with higher ed leaders from around the world. Now you can support the show for just $5.99 a month and lock in that rate for life when you join before December 31st, 2025. You'll enjoy ad-free early access to episodes. Go to edupexperience.com. That's EDUP experience.com. Click support the show and secure your lifetime rate today.
In broad terms, one of the metrics that we're really proud of is that our student population today very closely resembles, in terms of composition, very closely resembles the population of the state of Illinois. In some ways, that's not surprising. An overwhelming majority of our students, undergraduate students, come from Illinois. And so we've been very pleased to see that our student population, if you walk around on campus, you can see the mixture of students, and it looks very much like the state of Illinois in miniature. So that we're very proud of. But other than the composition in terms of demographics, we've also been very intentional in looking at what is it our students were asking for. I'll give you a couple of examples. When we studied our analytics many years ago about students who come to our websites and what it is they were looking for, we realized that even though we didn't have an engineering program, engineering was the number 3 program that students were looking for on our website. And so we said, wait a minute, what's happening with engineering and why are so many people coming to us looking for engineering degrees? And so we looked at the offerings for engineering across the state, and we realized that back then, there were about 400 engineering positions in the state of Illinois that were going unfilled every year because all the universities in Illinois were not graduating enough engineers. Uh, and so we said, whoa, we are a state university. Our mission is to produce the next generation of the workforce for Illinois. Clearly, there is a need here where students are asking for this, and so we could provide it. And so that's really how engineering came about. So we formed a committee. We studied which type of engineering it was that we wanted, and ultimately, we've created a College of Engineering. And this semester, we have the very first set cohort of engineering students. We aimed for 130. We enrolled 168 in the
Wow.
very first year. That speaks to the fact that, yes, there was a need there that had not been tapped into. and that our analysis was correct. Uh, Nursing is another program. In nursing, we were taking about 100 students every year, but we were getting close to 1,800 to 2,000 applications
Hmm.
for students who wanted to study nursing. And so we said, wait a minute, there's a lot more demand here. Clearly, there's a lot of the 1,700 that we were turning away were academically qualified and could have come here if we admitted them, but we couldn't because we had only 100 places. And so we said, okay, how do we make this broader? And it turned out that one thing we needed was more clinical placement. And
Mm.
so, one way that you can satisfy the clinical placement requirement is to have students learn in a stimulated environment. So, we designed and built, expanded our capacity in the Nursing Simulation Center. We built a new $18 million simulation center. And that allowed us to double our admission. So instead of taking 100, we're now taking 200 per year. So again, that's based on looking at students' demand and what it was the students were looking for and what the society needs. Our Dean of Fine Arts came to me when I was provost, and he said, hey, we have a tremendous demand in creative technologies because students are now using virtual reality, they're using all kinds of new technologies in the art world. And he said, we could really grow this program to about 400. At that time, I think we had maybe 180 students. But the dean said, the demand is out there, and our students are getting jobs before they graduate. So if you can create the infrastructure for me, we'll be able to grow this program to 400. Well, we created a new school of creative technologies, now with its own director, now with its own staff, and I believe they're pretty close to 300 already. So this really speaks to our job is to serve what it is students, families, and society is looking for. And so when we see that there is a need that we have the ability to meet, we'll explore that. We're not done yet. Data science, we're looking at, we knew everybody is looking for data science scientists. We didn't have a program in data science. And when I met with the CEO of State Farm, which is headquartered here, and he said, we really need data scientists. I said, well, we could produce data scientists if we just don't have all the resources. And he said, how about I help you out with $3 million? So we got $3 million from State Farm. Well, guess what? We have our first cohort of data science students. So over and over, you get the idea. We're looking at what it is students are looking for, what it is that we give them the fulfilling career aspirations that they're looking for, and where the opportunities are to educate students that will take on the jobs that we need. That's a big part of why we exist as a university, and we're simply trying to fulfill that mission.
Dr. Tarhule, I think you shared two of the reasons why you're wildly successful with your growth, but also your mission. Number one, your purpose. You you
Yeah,
you recognize, back to your statement a few minutes ago, which is the new purpose, the new reason for education, and the reason why people walk through the doors of an institution. And then number two, which is an area I'd like to sort of peel away at, institutional agility. I don't often use that term with many folks. I mean,
yep,
we think of higher education as the fixture. We think of higher education as not able to sort of make change quickly. But
yep,
you just described transformation to meet market demand. And if you were talking to other presidents right now, right, other presidents that are probably facing the challenge of evolving quickly to meet demand in their area, and you're sitting now in a part of the country where, again, your overarching market is falling, how would you guide them? How would you tell them, hey, here are the keys to approach this from the presidency?
yeah. Well, I'm not sure if I have a magic solution, but I think that's what makes this place special. The fact that we recognize that ability to change, and more importantly, that we're able to do so. Hey, listen, one of the descriptions I heard of a university, somebody described a university or running a university as akin to trying to move a graveyard. And I said, move a graveyard? He said, yeah, you don't get any help at all from the folks inside. Which I don't know if that's a good saying or not, but I think it kind of captures it, right? Universities are not designed to change very quickly. And in some ways, that's a good thing. This is places where tradition is maintained and we hold the knowledge of society and so on. So, in some ways, by design, we are not set up to change very quickly. And yet we're living in a society where change is accelerating. So it's not just coming at us from multiple directions, it's actually accelerating. So survival depends on our ability to to change. Because if we don't change, change is going to be imposed upon us, whether we like it or not. It's inevitable. And so the quicker people realize that this is inevitable, and also recognizing that, yes, we are never going to be able to change as quickly as technology. But in some ways, ability to change is existential for us in the most literal sense of the word. Whether you are talking about enrollment, whether you are talking about our value proposition and what it is people are getting from us, whether you are talking about trying to combat the perception that universities are not meaningful, and then looking at the kind of things that we're seeing in technology with AI, the very question of what is it universities are and how do they continue to show that relevance and value to society? If we can't answer that question, it will be answered for us one way or another, and we might not like that answer. And so that is what I try to instill here in the leadership team at Illinois State. And fortunately, we're in a place where maybe because we started as an education institution, people understand the value of changing to meet the needs of society. And so we are able to do those things that you've talked about, that I've talked about, and quite frankly, I'm very proud of. So I think it's recognizing, as you say, the imperative for change, the necessity, and the fact that our future depends on it, literally. And you've seen this with institutions that are not able to change what happens to them. They're folding up, they are merging, they are consolidating, they are eliminating academic programs, right? So you look around at well, what's happening, and it's easy for me to say, well, folks, guess what? If we don't respond and respond effectively to these changes, that will be us a few years from now. I don't know if it's a little bit of a scare tactics, but I think it's correct, and so far it's working for us.
Yeah, and at a point in time in which we've seen unprecedented campus closures, and like you said, society asking, is higher education worth it? I think it's refreshing to talk to leaders like yourself who step back and they're able to say, "Wait, we will meet the moment. We will not
Correct.
accept a fate that's given to us." And it is inspiring to me, encouraging and energizing, hopefully to our listeners to hear that, hey, there are institutions like yours with leaders like yourself that can actually paint a picture of the future where you remain student centric, but
Mhm.
remain focus selfishly on the outcomes of the student, on their ability to pass through your halls and then come out of there and set themselves up for life after, which I think is what higher education has always been. It's been you take that journey and you come out of higher education, but it prepares you for what comes next. But in a world that's changing as quickly as it is, that fear and anxiety is starting to cast a shadow on that traditional journey. So I do want to talk before we move to the end. I do want to talk for a moment about student success and just maybe some of the initiatives that the institution, yourself, you've been able to employ over the past few years that have led to the higher than average retention rate. Again, growth is great. What's even more admirable is growth and high retention, and a higher graduation rate, because now you're
Yeah.
truly delivering on that promise that we just talked about.
Yep. I have two words for you. Analytics. Analytics. Okay, that's two words. So when we looked at our numbers, so let's go back to several points, minutes in this conversation, and we talked about the demographic decline. This is real. We know that there are fewer students going to come to college just because there are fewer of them. But we looked at our analytics and we realized that we were losing close to about 800 students every year that we don't retain. These were students that we recruited at great cost. And in some cases, we gave them scholarships. And then they come here and we lose them after 1 year. It's devastating for them personally and their families, certainly, but it's also counterproductive for us as an institution. If we spend money and recruit students, we know that there are fewer students out there to recruit, and yet we're losing the ones that we have. And so we said, the best way to recruit students is to keep the ones you have. Don't lose the students that you have. So even if we cut our retention or improved our retention by half, that's 400 students more would be keeping every year. Can you calculate how much it costs to grow your student population by 400? So the cost of keeping them through retention strategies is way lower than the cost of trying to recruit that number of students. And so retention in many ways becomes a good part of an essential part of enrollment management. And guess what? It's really good for the students. And so the question becomes, how do you retain this many students? So we started looking at all the students we were losing. It led to fundamental questions like, well, who are we losing anyway? And why are we losing them? And at what point are we losing them? And what kinds of things can we do to ensure that we don't lose them? Those are the things that we've been working on. And in our new strategic plan, we have a very fixed number of the retention level we want to get to. And we hear everybody say, everybody knows 85% or bust. We must keep, reach an 85% retention level. And that's what we're working towards. And that helps you with the graduation rate. If you can't retain the students, well, you're never going to graduate them. So, in order to improve your graduation rate, you must begin by raising your retention rate. And that's going to help with your graduation rates. That's going to help with your relevance and value proposition. That's going to help with your financial bottom line because the students who stay continue to pay tuition. And a lot of the financial crisis that we see in universities is when you start losing students. Nothing good happens in a university when you start losing students because now you start having enrollment challenges, you now have financial challenges, and now you begin to have public perception uh, issues as well. So keeping retention up and using that to drive graduation rate, all of those are absolutely critical, not just for us, but also for the students and their families that we serve. And some of these questions are actually very basic when you look at it and we look at, okay, we've lost this many students because there's a particular course that nobody seems to pass. Well, why is that? I mean, I can accept 20 or 30, even 30 students reluctantly failing a class. If about 40 or 50%, heaven forbid, students are failing a class consistently, I don't care what the class is, we have a problem. And it means we have to look at that problem. Maybe our prerequisites are not correct. Maybe we have an issue with how we're teaching that course or what we're expecting. And so we started looking at the numbers in terms of the classes where students were failing consistently and asking, why are they failing? And what can we do to make sure that they don't fail? So it's looking at those things very intentionally, very systematically. Why are we losing them? Who are we losing for money? And in some cases, during the COVID pandemic, our retention went up quite a bit. And we looked at the data and said, wait a minute, why did we see that spike? And I got one of the most humbling moments of my administrative career. It turned out that we had previously placed a hold, I believe it was 200, maybe $250, that if a student owed that much, they couldn't register for the next session. And so during the pandemic, we raised that, and a whole bunch of students that we might have lost were able
Mhm.
to stay and register and continue. So
Right.
we had been allowing students to drop out of the university
Mm.
$200. And so we changed that. We've raised that to $1,000. We're considering raising it to $1,500. And we created scholarship programs to support them. We wouldn't have known that if it were not for the pandemic or somebody had, the intuition to look into it. So things like that, if you look into them, they can be small tweaks and changes like that that allow us to keep students. So we're not always losing students because they are not performing well academically. In fact, poor academic standing is not even in the top three reasons why we lose students. It's not. Number one is financial. Number two has to do with family. And number three has to do with they're not getting into the major that they want. And so
Mm.
they're going elsewhere. So the vast majority of students we are losing, we can keep if we are able to deal with the issues why they are losing. It's not because they can hack it. And so it is that kind of analysis, it's that kind of very intentionally asking the most basic questions that is allowing us to make progress on these metrics as you cited.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah. So sorry, I gotta cut it. We're coming up on time. Oh man, I can hear you talk all day. This is great. So this is the easiest question for you. I always get the privilege of asking the easiest question. What do you see as the future of higher education? And answer that in 1 minute or less.
We are at an inflection point in higher ed. I mean, the convergence of the kind of challenges that we're facing today, whether it's state disinvestment in higher education, whether it's demographic changes and declines, whether it's the value proposition, cost and affordability, you name it, on and on. These are major challenges. But I do not believe that this is the same as predestiny. We are going to be able to figure this out and continue. And here's the reason: higher education still remains, in my view, the most assured way of economic and social mobility in society by now. And so, because of that preeminent role that higher education plays, the realization, even if we take a little bit longer to come to that realization, that we have an ability to respond to these challenges. I think the combination of those factors is going to mean that we will survive. It may end up being slightly different from our grandfather's higher education, and that's okay. It should change, but it will change. We might lag the curve a little bit, but it's critical. It's a critical need in society. How else are people going to learn all these things that they need to learn as quickly and as cost effectively as what public higher education offers? So we have no option but to change and respond to these challenges, which means, and we've done this before. If you go back in history, there's been many other times when higher ed has faced this type of existential questions. They have always been able to figure it out. Now we have the baton. We are going to be able to figure it out.
Wow, that's fantastic. I love it. And this has been such a great conversation. You know what, Brent? I'm going to call you the co-host of co-hosts. He is Brent Ramden. He's the CEO of Education Dynamics. Brent, thanks for being with us again. Really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I had the easiest part of it. It was just fun listening to Dr. Tarhule share his background, his experience, how they're achieving success, and I absolutely resonate with the passion that you have for the discipline and then for your students.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. It was my pleasure to speak to both of you.
Thank you. And so let me out you. I'm going to try my best again. He is Dr. Aondover Tarhule. He's president at Illinois State University. By the way, do you have a nickname? I have to ask.
No, no
I love it.
nickname.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. You have a great day.
Yeah. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you've just EdUp. If you're afraid of success, go ahead and tune out because this segment is not for you. Every year, Higher Ed talks about change, but Insights EDU 2026, that's not another conference. It's the catalyst. It's where fresh data drops, revealing real insights on how modern learners are thinking, searching, and deciding right now. And here's a spoiler for higher ed leaders. Most institutions aren't keeping up. 3 days on the beach, February 17th to the 19th, 2026, in Fort Lauderdale. Over 65 powerhouse speakers, 40 sessions, zero fluff. We're talking unfiltered strategy, AI integrations, and forward thinking built for the leaders who want to disrupt before they're disrupted. So here's the question. Are you ready to lead transformation or be overtaken by it? Reserve your spot now at insightsedu.com. Early bird pricing ends December 15th. EdUp Experience has brought you powerful conversations with more than 400 college presidents and higher ed leaders, over 1,000 episodes and counting. Now, we're inviting you to join us in shaping the future of higher ed podcasting. For just $5.99 a month, you lock in that rate for life, but only if you sign up before December 31st, 2025. As a supporter, you'll get ad-free early access to episodes. Prices go up after December 31st, but your rate never will. Visit edupexperience.com. That's edupexperience.com. Click support the show and join our community today.